Hey, Mariah.
Hi, Monique.
Hello. Guess what?
What?
We are almost at the close of our podcast season, our first podcast season, people.
Wow.
Now, if this is not a reason for us to celebrate.
I can't believe that we have almost recorded 50 episodes. This is episode 47.
Kudos to us.
We started this journey having really no clue if this was something that we even knew that we would like or wanted to do. We just followed the call. We followed the call.
We followed the pull.
And here we are, having had almost 50 conversations between each other and with guests.
It's amazing.
It's really cool.
It feels like another day.
It's been just so easy and enjoyable and delightful.
Agreed. But I want to today talk to you because I led it with, we have a reason to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And you, I know no other person other than you that I like to celebrate more because you know what? That you're the queen of celebration. This is what you're all about. You have built your business model on celebrating. So I really want to get a little deeper into Mariah's work life and how she helps people celebrate. So let's listen up.
Welcome to Heart and Soul, the podcast where we empower and inspire women to lead their best lives, harnessing the power of their hearts and souls. We are Mariah
and Monique,
your hosts and guides on this journey of self-discovery and personal growth.
In each episode, we will dive deep into topics that matter most to you, from self-love and confidence to career development, relationships, and everything in between. We believe that every woman has a unique strength and inner wisdom waiting to be unleashed.
Join us as we cover insightful heart and soul-centered topics and interview incredible women who've overcome challenges, chased their dreams, and found their true purpose. Through all of this, you will discover practical tips, strategies, and real-life stories to help you navigate life's twists and turns.
For whatever season of life you're in, this podcast is your safe space to explore, learn, grow, and possibly even laugh and cry with us. So grab your headphones, maybe your favorite drink, and we'll embark on this transformative journey together.
With heart, I'm Mariah.
And with soul, I'm Monique. Hi, Mariah.
Hi.
Welcome to the hot seat, honey.
Okay, I'm here for it. I love talking about what I do.
I know you do.
I love sharing my passion for the work that I do. So I think that it is also really important to remember why celebrating and celebrations exist.
Oh, I like that.
I think that it can be really easy to sweep them under the rug or think about them, say, a wedding as being stressful. It's a lot. It can, in any, even like a kid's birthday party, like it's an undertaking.
Gosh, no kidding.
It's an undertaking. It's an expense. It's all these things. And in the process of it, the reason why we do it gets so lost.
Oh, it gets brushed aside. Like you get like swept up in like the doing and you forget the being.
And the why are we doing this at all?
Yeah. So I want to talk about celebrating, but before we do that, I just want to start with, can you please, for us, outline all of your businesses? Name them.
I'll try.
They're changing, and we could even put ours in there, right? Because we kind of celebrate people too.
Yes.
But actually, this is really about you. So if you could run everyone through so they actually understand, and then we'll link in the show notes, like how to reach out to you if the work you do aligns and someone has a need for that. So, okay.
Sure. Okay. Well, and also I think I can give just a little history personally of how I came into this work.
Yes.
So I primarily run businesses that are related to weddings and special events.
And celebrating
humans for many reasons, or businesses or nonprofit galas, charities, whatever it might be. A lot of celebrating and all of the businesses that I have in that space are supporting that
Mm-hmm.
endeavor. When I look back at how I got here, and I think like, was there always some knowing that it was going to end here? I love doing that exercise with people too, of like, oh, wow, now this all makes sense. How each step along the way in my career
supports
led
the next.
to this.
Yes.
So sort of the story is that in high school, well, my mom was always really good at putting on a great birthday party for us. And that was just like an important part. She was really wonderful about making sure that we always, celebrated. And so I definitely grew up in a home where that was important.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in high school, she went to work at a party store. So it was kind of in the beginning of the concept of a party store.
Interesting.
And she was the store manager for a while. And I started working alongside her. I was like 14 at the time, right about the age you can work.
Wow.
And I loved it. I loved like people coming in, customers, and I need paper plates and this and that. And then I would help them, figure out all the decorations that they needed for their event.
Oh, fun.
And a little bit into that journey, she ultimately decided to purchase her own franchise of this party store in Duluth. Consequently, how my whole family ended up over here in this
Mom, thank
area.
you, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
It was the available franchise location in a place that my parents were excited about building a future. And so there was clearly like a pretty big overarching element of like a party store is in your family. It is like the livelihood of my mother.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, though, it wasn't like I, in my head, thought that was my carear.
Yeah,
that
because
was
this is
business.
not how you started.
No, so I was just leaving for college, early days of the business and off on my own career. At the time, too, I was like, I'm going to be in poli-sci. Did I even know what that meant? Not really, but like seems like the thing I wanted to do because it wasn't aligned with like the people really make a career out of this.
Right.
Now, my mom was an entrepreneur who started a business, but those two things weren't coming together.
Not in your mind.
About the party store, the celebration. Then throughout college, I often found myself in the role of putting events together. You always know the person in the group, or when an event needs to be planned, that person rises to the occasion. So that was sort of consistently me in organizations.
But you loved it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was like a natural fit. But it wasn't until just after college, I was working for a catering team that I did a wedding. This was in Vermont in the mountains. And I was bartending at a wedding as part of this catering team. For a weekend, it was I was there for the Friday and the Saturday. So I was with this group a lot over that course of that period of time. And I just like fell deeply in love with the wedding.
Oh.
The celebration, the wedding, the way the pieces went together, the scenery, the atmosphere, like everything about that weekend.
Cool.
Even though I was like, I've never worked harder, longer hours, more exhausting days in my life.
But rewarding.
And I'm like, cannot stop thinking about this wedding. And I just had this like visual that it would think back to of like, why did that light me up? Right? Like, why did that light me up? But still, it wasn't like I saw that as a career.
Yes.
Like I wasn't thinking of why that lit me up in terms of it's work I should pursue.
Sure.
Right? So I end up going to work for a consulting firm, management consulting firm in Washington, D.C. And lo and behold, within 2 years, I'm planning all the firm's events. Just like naturally, I've now stepped up and I'm planning the holiday party and recognition events. And I've just found myself back in this role of planning these events. It's like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Right.
Well, at that time, I got engaged and started planning my own wedding. And the pieces started to fall together that this actually could be a career when I hired a wedding planner to help me do the wedding day coordination.
Somebody does this, right?
And I was like, wait a minute. This is actually a job I could have.
And cool job.
Yeah, and I could see it was like, well, this is a side gig, more or less. So it would be a nice fit. Like if I worked for her, which I ended up doing, it would be a nice complement to like my career job, right? So I did. I started doing that on the weekends after my own wedding, helping couples to plan their weddings. And it just clicked that this was actually what I was meant to do.
Wow.
And it just wasn't work, right? Like
You
when
couldn't
it's what
see
you're
it.
supposed to be doing, it doesn't feel like work.
I understand.
So I was fortunate enough to, after my kids were born, we had relocated to Minnesota. I'd had a little bit of time with them when they were babies. And I was ready to start getting back into the working world. I was craving that in my life. I both started helping my mom with her business. So back in this party world.
Yeah.
And I decided to reboot my event and wedding planning career in Minnesota with a focus on celebrations and weddings up in the Duluth area on Lake Superior. And so I threw a shingle out, thankfully had the party stores as a good landing spot to help me get started. And I just threw myself like head first into business ownership and building. And I had an unstoppable hustle. Like it just flowed through me. Like I got how to connect with clients. I had to learn a lot about how to run a business.
Oh, for sure.
That was not necessarily a skill that I
don't think it's easy for everyone. Anyone.
Because when you're trying to monetize your dreams, like
you'll do it for free.
You will make choices that you probably shouldn't.
Yes.
So I've learned that, and then I've learned how to bring those two together in really healthy ways. And that's, we've talked about in other episodes. But what I've honed over the years, last 15 years now, is the why, like more in depth in all of the work I've done with couples, specifically couples getting married. I mean, I do work again a ton with corporate and nonprofit clients too, but it's easiest to think about it in terms of weddings. I've spent a lot of time with them planning the wedding and supporting them. And I could have always looked at it like, I don't know, just like a procedural role.
Sure.
Putting these pieces together.
Sure.
But from the beginning, I took it as like, I'm here to help craft the most meaningful celebration for them.
That's
and
beautiful.
To understand, like, why are we doing it at all? And to help them understand that.
Why?
Because they come to me and they're overwhelmed to start with. The budget is always the issue. The emotions behind the relationships with parents, there's just like
a lot.
There's so much.
There's a lot.
So why the hell do we even do it?
Right.
Like I've had
go to the justice of the peace.
Yeah, just sign the paper, be done. Right. And so I've really have the benefit of looking back over all of this time with clients and analyzing and thinking about like, why do people even do it?
Yeah.
Why do I keep doing it? Right? Like,
why do I
have like the number 2 most stressful job in the world next to air traffic control? Like event planning is like up there in stress levels. And at the end of the day, like celebration matters.
Yes. It should if it doesn't.
It matters.
Yes.
It is fundamental to our happiness as humans is a recognition of oneself or others in a celebratory moment. It is life-giving. There are so many stressors that, and life has so much going on, happiness and sadness, that seizing opportunities to celebrate when you can is so important. It's so necessary.
Yes.
And so I look at it with couples when I feel the stress that they're having about planning the wedding, and I help them break it down and I talk about it with them. Like, why did you choose to have a wedding? Like, let's remember that.
Right.
Because you've already had a lot of this conversation when you got engaged and started thinking about like having a wedding. Let's break down like the actual why of it, because that also says a lot about their relationship, how they communicate. I can usually see in there like who wanted the wedding more. What do they really want? Like who's really on board with some of the decisions?
Sure.
I can help them make better decisions based on pushing them to that question, like the why, and helping to understand the why of the families involved and why are the guests coming? Like just a lot of whys. Like why do people want to be there? Why, why do we gather? Like that was just like this big question that kept coming. There's a wonderful book called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. I remember when I first read that book, I was like, oh my God, this sums up like all of the questions that I've been having and sharing with my couples and clients like over the years that just gets to the root of the why we're doing this. So then when we go to figure out the what we're doing, it's easy.
Yes.
It makes sense.
Right.
It's for the right reasons.
Right.
So I highly recommend, we can link to that book, but that is like a good way to read into the whys,
Okay.
expanding much more than I can have
Sure.
time to do here today.
Sure.
But it goes into all the types of celebration, whether you're just getting together to celebrate a promotion, a birthday, something good that happened in your life, celebrating any sort of transition. It's that moment where everybody comes together in recognition of a transition with a positive spin.
Yes.
Even now, I love that funerals have become celebrations of life.
As they should.
Right?
Yes.
So even taking that same gathering and the reason to gather as a celebration of someone puts a different spin on the gathering itself.
Yes.
And so I encourage people to, when they start to think about a gathering or throwing a celebration, whether it be for them, they're throwing it for themselves, someone's throwing it for them, they're hosting a wedding for their children, to pause before the stress hits and to get centered in the why. Get centered in like what this is all for and what are the collective whys around doing it so that you're really clear on the answers to that, like the answers to the why or what your core values are around this. Because then the decisions that you're going to make
are going to reflect
that.
Yep.
The dollars that you're going to spend are going to reflect that. And your outcome for yourself and for your guests, if there's guests involved, because a celebration can be just two people, right?
Like, of course.
But the outcome for whoever's celebrating is going to feel authentic and worthwhile and inspirational, you know, all those things. And we can all, we all know what this feels like. And I use this all the time with my clients, a wedding couple. I'll say, I want you to think back to a wedding that you've attended in the past where there was just something in the room that kind of gave you the ick, or there was an energy in the room of negativity, or an energy in the room that you couldn't quite place, but you just knew that something was off.
Yes.
And you also know you're not the only one feeling it, right? I want you to just think back of what that felt like. Oh, immediately people are like, oh yeah,
I got it. Yeah, it's hard not to think of a time, right?
And then I'm like, let's dissect that for a second and think about what was behind that. Because our objective is that nobody who celebrates with you
have that feeling. Right.
And the feeling is so often rooted directly to the humans that are involved in the planning and celebrating.
Or there's an undercurrent.
There's an undercurrent
feels
here.
A certain
it's the
way
couple, it's a parent.
Right.
It's in there somewhere. And we need to root that out before the day so that when we get to the wedding day, we are all on the same page about why we're here. Because everyone in the room knows it anyways. And
they can feel it.
I love this conversation with folks because the looks on people's faces back and forth of remember that one time? If there's a sour bride or groom who just can't put a smile on their face.
Yes.
And they're sour.
Yes.
Everyone knows.
Yes.
It's the talk of the town.
Yes. And they're like, why are they even doing this?
Why are we even here? Why am I wasting my time?
Right.
It wasn't to eat this crappy chicken.
Right? Hear about this present, and then they're all,
10
they didn't
hours,
even say hi to me.
Right. Spend 10 hours of my day eating a crappy meal with 400 people, and the bride can't put a smile on her face. If this is the wedding that somebody wants to have, that they're not my client for sure. Because unless they're open to having done the inner work.
Well, I feel like, just hang on one sec. I just feel like you bring intentionality to the celebration.
Absolutely. Yes.
And if you don't want that level of celebration, you just want to go through the motions, they're not your ideal client because you want an intentionality behind it. You want people to understand and to feel it and to get behind it, to buy into it, because that's going to be a successful event.
Now, that said, saying that out loud, I would say, if somebody can see that scenario, they're going into a celebration and they don't want to be that person, and they're willing to do the work,
Yes.
then they would be somebody.
Sure.
They would be a good client, right?
Once you bring it to their awareness and they're like, wait, no, I don't want that.
That's ultimately become my secret sauce in the work that I do. Like,
oh,
I could design the most stunningly beautiful event because I do love the design side. I love the creative. What does it look like? Like creating atmospheres and infusing the energy of the room from the external elements, not just the people in the room. That is a huge part of it. But I can tell you, like, I've had the best time at weddings that were in a barn and not even a nice barn, right? Like not even like a fancy barn.
Yes.
Or I've had the best time in a church basement because the people in the room and the energy in the room was right.
Yeah.
It was happy. It was joyous. It was everything it needed to be. I could create the most beautiful space you've ever been in, and you could have a shitty time because the people are not bringing the right energy. I've been to $1 million wedding in New York City with 7-course meal, and I did not have any more fun there than the wedding that is
up the shore
in people. The barn, you know, like that's like that is a really important delta that I help people understand in the work that I do. And what I've learned is how to ask the right questions and how to have the right conversations to flush out the whys and use that as a guiding light in decision making. Or in my company, we'd say your true north. So my wedding planning company is True North Weddings.
Perfect.
It's a perfect way to segue into what are all the things that I do.
Yes, thank you. I want you to describe them all. Yes.
So True North Weddings, the name itself came out of that conversation with a couple to say, like, what's your true north? What is
where's your star point?
North? Yes. Because there's north and then there's your north. And your north is what we're going for.
Yes.
Because you as a couple are coming together to celebrate your union, the bringing together of two families with witnesses. And the people bearing witness, they give your marriage the basically, you know, saying it out loud in front of other people makes it real, right? It makes it cemented and real and a shared experience. And how, as a couple, do you want to reflect that true north in the decisions you make around the gathering?
Beautifully said.
Then we can go through the list of, you should probably feed people, maybe entertain them. But all of that is flexible and up for reinvention based on what do you want this to feel like, look and feel like. And so, I just figured that out over time of like reading people and reading rooms and being in situations to see like, oh, that's why this doesn't feel great, is that person over there can't put a smile on their face and they are dragging it all down. And we should have, we could have rooted that out earlier. Maybe we would have had more success. Like, you know, and then some people.
So you're like a love coach.
I'm never going to get there. A lot of that.
We talked about this.
Yes,
You're like a love coach.
Some love coaching.
Getting them kind of like on board a little bit too.
And not just the couple, like it's the families too. Like I can see that my work has to extend through the larger party. Yeah. Otherwise, someone's going to be in someone's ear and that's going to affect the wedding day too.
Yeah, ruining the day.
Yeah. And now I don't do many large weddings anymore. I'm involved more as an entrepreneur in all of my businesses and the running of the businesses. But I have such a passion for this topic. And so what I try to do is bring this into our clients as a company through my podcast, the True North Weddings podcast, and then just through the work that I do with our overall client base and share with them, whether it's a newsletter or doing some one-on-one trainings and things like that. So I'm now trying to move into being able to share this message and this perspective with the larger world.
Love it.
That just because I can't be there on your wedding day or I'm not your planner doesn't mean you can't learn from my experience in terms of what's the right framework or mindset to be in when you go into wedding planning. So it's really evolved from like boots on the ground wedding planner, working with couples to more wanting to help people, coach people on the mindset side, the love side. Because again, rooted way deep in there
should be the love.
Straight love.
Should be.
If we all just act out of love, like we all behave a lot better.
No kidding.
we'll all enjoy ourselves a lot more.
Gosh.
Because again, going back to like why we started this podcast episode today, because I could go off forever on this topic, celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
We're celebrating something. We are bringing joy to recognize a moment in time.
And the shared lives coming together of these beautiful human beings.
Or the joy of your new job, or the joy of your birth.
Correct.
The joy of your birth or the joy of your death, right? Like the celebration is the recognition of the joy of whoever we're celebrating is. And if there isn't joy in the process of that, because the same applies to if we're planning a birthday party or planning a funeral or celebration of life, like where do we find the joy in the planning process? Because you're not going to find it in the end if it didn't exist along the way.
So well said.
Like
yes.
That party's going to suck.
Right. If
And
you don't bring joy to the process, the end result is going to be what the process was, which was
be a very fun event.
Yeah.
I was just listening to another podcast, and they were talking about planning a dinner party, and it was Ina Garten, the Barefoot Contessa. Her new book is fantastic. But she was talking about how she realized in planning dinner parties, like how important it was that what her preparation was for the meal was so simple so that she could enjoy the party. And so she based, an entire career in cookbooks and entertaining advice
about making it simple,
around making it simple enough and yet still celebratory in quality of the food so that she could enjoy the party too. And like that's the whole thing. Like you as a host have to also be able to enjoy the bride, the bridegroom, the brides, whatever the couple is, like they need to be able to.
Well, we've had a dinner party before, and you in your set it up so perfectly where we had the greatest of times because everything prep work was done, the food was made. I mean, it was like we weren't hosting.
Yeah.
We were able to participate.
The host should also be able to participate, ideally. It's not
always the case.
Things can go wrong, and obviously hire an event planner to do all that for you. That's my, find that in the budget. That's what I would hope people were able to do.
True North is your wedding
brand. So let's go back to that. So early on, my company started as it's Northland Special Events. That has now evolved into the parent company for what has become a bit of a new phrase, mind palace.
Conglomerate.
Businesses.
Conglomerate, yes. Mind palace.
In the very beginning, I decided that I personally needed to be responsible for every aspect of your wedding day, including all of your decor, all of your flowers, the planning, the coordination. And that was just the hats that I decided I wanted to wear and serve my couples with.
I want to do it all.
I wanted to do it all. And I loved doing it all. And oh my gosh, like I cannot
Recipe for burnout. Isn't there that why we have a series on burnout?
Yeah, newsflash, that came later. But I loved working with my mom and my team, and we would just like pack the van full of all the things and drive up north and be doing flowers in the woods and just crafting these dream weddings.
So
and
fun.
it was really beautiful and really fulfilling for a really long time, 10 years of that. While also just building and growing a business, trying to figure out how to have it make money. Like newsflash, that's also important. Hey, learned that the hard way.
It, yes.
But we hit 2020, and that thankfully coincided for me with a major burnout period where I was just spent.
Yes.
Like so done. And so I thankfully got a bit of a break and an opportunity to retool the way that I had been doing things, the structure that I had built the business. I shifted at that time, I would say, from being an event planner, a wedding planner, to being a business owner and to being an entrepreneur / business owner.
The visionary seat versus the
and an operator too. Like I had to wear both hats, but I just realized like I'm not going to keep loving my dream job if I don't change the way that I'm doing it.
Yes, I understand this.
And I really could see like I knew I was burnt out because I found myself at a wedding of people that I cared a lot about, and I didn't want to be there. I wanted to like go into the parking lot and
that
run.
Celebration was
get
gone.
in my car and drive away in the middle of their wedding day. Like
I get it.
As soon as that thought entered my head, I knew something was actually really wrong.
Yes.
But through the time and space that I had with the quarantine and all of the, ups and downs of the next year, it gave me time to rethink it. And what I ultimately decided to do, pivotal point there in all of my businesses from there on, was I decided to basically silo out each specialty that I had been wearing all the hats for and to build them as separate business units to serve their own clientele and a shared clientele, but with staff that was geared towards each of those. So to go back, I have Superior Blooms, which is event floral. I have the Vault Event Decor rental, which is specialty rentals. That was an area that we saw opportunity for expansion post-pandemic that has grown to be the largest element of my business. Wow. True North Weddings is the specific wedding planning and coordination arm. And then Northland Specialty Events is still the parent company and serves nonprofit and corporate planning clients, or social planning clients, which we do a lot of work into. Holiday parties, conferences,
yes,
galas, all of that.
Yes.
And then because I'm an absolute crazy maniac,
no,
I'm about to open a new branch, which is Josephine's Bridal, which will be a bridal store.
Probably be open by the time
wedding
this
gowns
podcast comes out. Actually,
it might be. Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Fingers crossed.
That's the plan. And all of those now can function with a manager and a team that is trained and dedicated to delivering that service. And then again, we all work together on a lot of events.
Yes.
But it took off my back the burden of finding people who could do all of those crazy things in one wedding, which I realized I couldn't duplicate myself over and over again, and allowed me to just better streamline delivery of all those services. But throughout all of that, my intention was always and continues to be to build truly well-respected, well-run companies that anybody coming to us through any one of the arms or brands knows that because it's a Northland Special Events company, it's already like at a quality level that they are excited about.
Yes.
And that they have confidence
So you're building on reputation.
Absolutely. I mean, a good 10 years of just building reputation. And now whatever we add to that, we hope that comes with that same enthusiasm for our reputation, and that the client and the client experience is the most important thing to us across the board. We will move mountains on that event day to make sure that things go well. And we have a huge arsenal of tools in our toolbox to make sure that things go well. For instance, my staff knows whatever division you're working in, if you see a need on a wedding day and you can fill that with something that we have in our warehouse,
your arsenal,
just go make it happen.
Yeah.
We will resolve the after effects later. I will stand up for that. I mean, it's something as simple as a really long extension cord.
Yes.
If that's a struggle and the DJ's having a struggle and you know that in 10 minutes you can go to our shop and grab it, you just do it.
Yeah.
You go and you get it, and we will figure it out later. I have always empowered my team to make those decisions on the event day, so that when we've gotten this far, when I have counseled the heck out of this couple and we are there with all our best intentions, that one little thing like that does not derail our situation. And that's where I stand behind how I've built my companies and the end result that I'm looking for.
Customer service, baby.
It's customer service.
You want to make the magic.
Yes. So that everything we've worked towards and our why for the celebration, we get to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And so in hiring us in any of the divisions, I would say it's a little bit of an insurance policy behind you being able to enjoy your celebration, because you know that we're back there worrying about all the things that might derail
details,
that.
yes.
All those details.
Yes.
And so that you can be the relaxed host, enjoying your group and having fun at your own celebration.
That's your specialty.
And that's been, it's just been the joy of my life to be able to do this, to have grown this into a business and a career, and to learn through it that I actually really love the business ownership and entrepreneurship.
Yes,
and
you're
so
very good at it.
Now when people ask, what do you do? I'm an entrepreneur in the wedding and event space. And I hope that now I can figure out how to run a bread dress shop and
You will.
serve clients like that and make that profitable and, all those things. So I keep saying, I'm done looking for new challenges. Like, this is it. This is never going to be it. Like, there's always going to be something
Surrender
next,
to it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for describing all of that. The one thing I wanted to say, so do you have any tips for people, maybe you've already said this, like about celebrating, on your day? Is it come back to your why? What would be the main, or are there 5 tips or
Yeah. So maybe the number one thing that I most confront with people is scarcity mentality.
Oh, yes.
Big shocker.
Yes.
Or a negativity around thinking they can have what they really want. So I'll always start by asking people, like, what do you really want?
Yes.
And then it's so interesting as they're starting to tell me what they really want, it goes like this. What I really like is to have this, this, and this, but I couldn't possibly because of this, this, and this. Like, in the same breath.
Yes. They dismiss it before they get it.
Why have you already decided that you can't have that? Like, slow down here.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on what you want, because what you say you want isn't necessarily how it's going to end up. We know we're going to go on a winding road, but at least allow yourself to dream a little bit. Allow yourself to
be a dreamer.
Say out loud what you really want. So I would say, in somebody's planning an event, a birthday party or a anniversary celebration or anything, to get the people, the powers that be together, whether you are working with a planner or it's you and your husband or whatever, whatever the core planning group is, and just allow yourself to dream first. It doesn't even mean like dream big. I just dream it all. And then from there, let those visions and the why behind them inform how it can look. Because it could look so many different ways on a sliding scale. And so when someone tells me like their big audacious dream, or they show me a picture on Pinterest that is, wildly more budget than we all know that they have.
Yeah.
I can still look at that and see
what you can make
how
happen.
we can carve out of that and what we could make happen in that vision that would have the same energy.
Yeah. Like look or allure.
Yeah. And so I would just say, if you're going into a planning experience, just dream first.
Okay.
Start there.
So start your celebration with a dream.
With joy. Start plan to plan joyfully a joyful experience.
Enjoy it. Have fun with it.
And if you can't get there and you can't do that, stop doing it.
Sure.
Rethink. Is now the right time?
Oh.
Maybe that's what's off.
Yeah. Are we forcing it?
Are we forcing it?
Why are we having to do this right
Is
like
this the right time? Like, if a couple's working on a wedding plan and they just cannot get together on the plan, take that as a sign.
Red flag.
That maybe,
or at least yellow,
they should focus on the relationship and then see how it goes.
Sure.
And so don't get so hell-bent on it has to be this day, this place, this time. Because if the universe is pushing back on you and making it hard, there's a reason behind that. So listen to that reason. So it shouldn't feel hard. It should be with ease and joy. And so listening to like, why does this feel so hard? Because you're trying to cram a round peg in a square hole, like, or whatever, whatever, square peg, round hole, whatever it is. So just like, why does this feel so hard? Stop yourself and think about that. So like, those 2 pieces of advice, like, they're not operational. They're not like, they're kind of woo-woo.
Yes.
But I really think that if more people spent any amount of time working on that mindset and listening to their intuition and to the universe around the planning, the results would be a lot more joyful. And of course, I would be remiss not to say, hire somebody to help you.
Of course.
Because the person you hire, hopefully, like me, can see things that you can't see, can see your blind spots, can pick up on the energies that you are really giving off, and can help you to narrow down your choices and to develop the plan and be that insurance policy over the execution on the day so that you can enjoy yourself. I understand it's not in every budget, 100%. I don't recommend it be the thing people spend budget on in every case. Like I will meet with people knowing that there's limited resources for the event. And I'm like, you need to feed people, so you can't spend the budget on me. However, I can give you these tips, point you in this direction. And with that, I think you're going to be okay. And I will tell them that. And then there's other people where I'm like, you shouldn't spend another dime until you can afford this, because I know that your event requires a professional to make sure that it goes well, or you're going to throw all that money in a trash can. Your guests are going to know it. Your boss is going to know it. Like, it's going to be obvious that this wasn't the right role for you to be this planner. So,
Right.
That's that I would say would be like my top 3 pieces of advice.
Yes.
And then to just take it like really down to a very simple personal level. And I need to be reminded of this myself. And actually my sister just reminded me of this. And it feels kind of beautiful to be able to say this here. Like in the month of September, we have almost all of the women in our family have birthdays. It's the 13th September, the 15th, the 19th. Like it is in 1 week.
Yes, it's a lot.
It's me, my daughters, my niece. And it is the busiest time of my year.
Yes.
Like the
Work-wise.
worst possible week. Like seriously. So difficult. And I never want to celebrate, honestly. I'm just like, I don't want to talk about birthdays because I can't be in the right mindset to enjoy it. And I've had so many where I'm either working and then I'm trying to run over so somebody can give me a cake. And I'm just like, I don't want it right now, you know, or I'm not able to make it to my niece's birthday, or my daughters. I'm like, how do I make sure they feel special, you know, in the midst of all this going on? So this year we'd had just a small party at home, and my sister called me, or for my daughters, my sister called me and she was like, are we not getting together for the twins' birthday? This was like the day after.
Crap.
And I'm like, no time for parties.
Bah humbug.
I was humbugging it up. It was so bad. I was just terrible human in that moment. And so she was kind of like, cool, bye. Like,
yeah, this sucks. See ya.
Sorry I asked. Well, she followed up by texting the girls herself and said, my family would really like to celebrate you.
That was
and
sweet.
Your birthday with her children, and bake you a cake and have you over for dinner. When would be a good time?
That was sweet.
Well, way to show me what really mattered.
Yes.
Because even though it was 2 weeks after the actual birthday, or 10 days or whatever, we went to their home, we had dinner, they made them a cake, they gave them gifts, and we spent time together. And I realized, like, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it is.
It wasn't about doing it during that exact week. It wasn't
not about the day,
how it looked or where it
the
was
gifts,
or anything like that. It was that we celebrated and got together at all.
And
that we put the people together that, you know, that wanted to be part of that. And so it really very recently reminded me that I have to remember in my own celebration not to let the work that I do stop me from realizing, like, we have to enjoy those moments and like take time for that. And it put me back to like my sitting in that seat myself and going, oh, for silly, like, quit being so bah humbug about it. And I get that way around the holidays too. But and a lot of I mean, a lot of women do.
Yeah, it's
That's
burnout.
a tough time. We could do an entire episode on how to survive the holidays.
Yes, and
I've
maybe
worked
we
hard
will
on that
next season.
Ooh,
stay
I like
tuned.
it. Ooh. Okay.
So that said, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I think we should wrap it up, unless you have any last minute tips.
I think that I've said a lot. I hope it's been helpful to people. I think we should celebrate our podcast.
Yes,
and its first year. So stay tuned, because I think we should do something special to celebrate, whether it's you and I, or, you know, we've talked about having our guests together, but let's not lose this opportunity to celebrate the accomplishment that we have made in taping this many episodes. Or taping. I always say taping makes me sound so old. recording this many episodes of the Heart and Soul podcast. So
I agree. Yes, I think we should. So stay tuned. But thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. I think you're right. I love that intentionality piece behind celebration. If we could bring that in, what's our why? Why are we doing this? That's a beautiful reminder for all of us. So please check out Mariah and her many companies. What did you say?
My mind palace of businesses.
As we will link them in the show notes. And you can always reach out to her if you have questions for her. Thank you for listening. Thank you for celebrating with us. Thank you for Mariah for sharing. And we will hope to see you next time.
Cheers, friends. You've just finished another episode of the Heart and Soul podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed the show, and if you've loved it, we would love if you'd leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening. You can find links to leave that review in the show notes, where you'll also find other resources that we reference on our show. And if you think a friend could find value in today's episode or any future episodes, please share this episode with them on social media. This is one of the only ways the podcast can organically grow, and we just can't wait to connect with you and all of your besties. You can also find Monique and I on our many social media platforms or our websites, and we're going to leave links to those in the show notes as well. Thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing our hearts and souls with you again next time. With Heart, I'm Mariah.
And with Soul, I'm Monique.